From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our final episode of this week. It's Thursday, January 16th, 2024. I hope everyone's had a good week thus far. We've got a packed show for all of y'all today. There's a lot to talk about in terms of some new reports and some stuff that's really upcoming and some of the dilemmas that the cybersecurity community faces beyond just the traditional threats around governance, around regulation, around reporting, and so much more. So let's get into this morning's show. But before we do, please make sure to subscribe, follow, like, comment. By the way, let me know what you're drinking. So this morning, I'm taking a break from an espresso. And the reason is because all I have in the room at the moment is decaf. And drinking a decaf espresso is disrespectful to the beans. So I went out and I got a Celsius. Yes, that's right. This is a green apple cherry. It's a good flavor. I don't know. I like it. If you drink Celsius, tell me what flavor I should try that you really like. But we say coffee cup cheers. I'm saying coffee cup cheers with my Celsius this morning. Let me know what you're drinking in the comments. Cold drinks get a longer sip than an espresso, right? Because the espresso is super hot. So anyways, let's go ahead and kick off this morning's show. A lot to talk about, including Security Week conducting an analysis of the healthcare data breach database maintained by HHS OCR, that's the Office for Civil Rights, which stores information on incidents impacting the protected health information of over 500 individuals. The OCR was informed of 585 incidents that involved healthcare data breach between January 1st of 2024 to December 31st of 2024, that adding up the number that roughly 180 million people were impacted in the US last year alone by healthcare data breaches. However, what they didn't study and why the number is a bit misleading is because you could be in multiple different data breaches and they count that every single time. So the 50 million people that have been breached 3 times, 60 million people that have been breached 3 times each, right? But as a general rule of thumb, 180 million records were compromised as part of that data breaches. I think that's the number to look at, right? Of those breaches, 440 affected healthcare providers. Another commonly impacted type of entity was healthcare business associates, which accounted for nearly 100, and health plans were involved in nearly 60 incidents. So close to 500 incidents were described as hacking or IT incidents, which includes ransomware attacks. And we're going to get to that. There's another story about this that we're going to get to that kind of shows you the dilemma between cybersecurity and business, and then kind of the bridge we still have to build in order to kind of lay out the foundational work of what is considered, business risk and what's considered a cybersecurity risk and so forth. The state with the highest number of incidents was Texas. It was followed by California, New York, Illinois, Florida, Ohio, the great state of Massachusetts, Michigan, Tennessee, and Pennsylvania. So all in all, we obviously know about Change Healthcare and United, but then there's Kaiser Permanente and Ascension, which was huge, and Health Equity, and so much more that went on last year in the healthcare industry, and some data to keep in mind. So, and if you're a practitioner in the healthcare side of the house, right, this is huge. And the reason I say that is because this data lets you know just how much risk does exist, but it also introduces a new caveat. So when people steal data, when cyber criminals steal data, and most healthcare activity is not done by nation states, it's predominantly done by criminals that are trying to monetize it. And they try to monetize it one of 3 ways. Really, there's a traditional way of selling the data for money, which is fine. They sell the data for money. Other criminals buy it. But what do criminals use the data for? Well, they don't use it. In some cases, they use it to blackmail people, although those cases are so few. I texted someone when I was getting ready for a show about an hour ago, who I know in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. He said, how often is this? He replied right away, and he goes, we rarely see it. So you're not getting blackmailed with your health records. And I've heard people say that, they steal your health record, they're going to blackmail you about a disease or a condition you have. And not really. I mean, You could steal the records if you know of potential athletes if you like gambling and you kind of want to get an edge on your bets. That's about it. But no one is stealing John Smith's record to email John Smith and go, I know you have a disease, and if you don't pay me, I'm going to do that. That's not the case. The big one is healthcare insurance fraud. Healthcare insurance fraud is where they submit false claims to either healthcare facilities or on behalf of payment facilities in order to siphon off money from insurance programs. That's the biggest threat of all of these data breaches. So that's something really important to keep in mind when you look at healthcare data breaches and you look at that and go, why does that matter? It's because really that third bullet right there, the healthcare insurance fraud, is what increases the cost of healthcare. It's what adds more difficulty to the process, and it has a real impact on the quality of care and the cost of care that every single person in the United States or even across the world gets when we see these healthcare data breaches. So we'll continue. A hacker group that's fairly new, they're calling themselves the Belson Group, and they're claiming their first official operation, and they're doing it all for free. Just come get a taste of what we do. And what's that taste, you may be asking yourself? Like a good drug dealer in Breaking Bad, they've compromised 15,000 Fortinet devices, including username, passwords, configurations, and IPs, and put those out online for all of y'all to enjoy. And when I mean all of y'all, I mean the black hat types, because the white hat types, we're going to go look at that data. We're going to reach out. We're going to do, clear, fair disclosure to people who we know, because that's the point of being in InfoSec. Researcher Kevin Bama has obviously analyzed the files and confirmed them to be genuine. The dump data is classified based on country of origin, with each record containing an IP address, a full configuration data, plain text credentials, and usernames, device management certificates, and even some firewall rules. So it remains to be seen how they got their data. This is coming on the heels of Fortinet also confirming a zero-day vulnerability that they patched up. That's CVE 2024-555901, and that one has been exploited in attacks since at least November. So it'll be interesting to see how this one pans out for all of us here. The FTC is cracking down on web hosting giant GoDaddy for multiple cybersecurity failings. Primarily, they're highlighting several major cybersecurity breaches between 2019 and 2022. The FTC alleges that GoDaddy deceived its customers about how adequate it safeguards web hosting products. Now, that's, again, a very, very interesting view here by the FTC. Consumers were sent to malicious websites or otherwise harmed after attackers broke into GoDaddy customers' websites and accessed the data. We talked about those breaches back in the show, and the show's in its early days. By the way, if you want to see the early days of the show, go back to 2019 and watch those videos, and then try not to not try to make fun of me as I was trying to find my footing in this game. All right. Millions of companies, particularly small business, rely on this. GoDaddy, based in Arizona, has about 5 million web hosting clients, the agency says. The company failed to track and manage software updates, analyze threats to its shared hosting services, properly log and continuously assess cybersecurity incidents, and silo its shared hosting services from one or more insecure platforms, according to the complaint. They also say that GoDaddy falsely advertised that it prioritized a strong cybersecurity program and complied with international framework requiring companies take reasonable measures to protect personal data. The settlement order bars GoDaddy from exaggerating on its security practices, orders it to design a comprehensive InfoSec program, and directs it to retain an outside company to assess its enhanced cybersecurity program when it launches, and every 2 years thereafter. The fact that GoDaddy didn't have a security program or what they consider to be inadequate is just mind-boggling when you think of who GoDaddy is, right? I mean, all of us, if you've ever done any sort of networking or IT, or you were, network security, like, we've all interacted with GoDaddy. I mean, this smack in the face. Jen Easterly yesterday sat with former Rear Admiral Mike Montgomery, having a conversation at the Foundation for Democracies. I think it's the Foundation of Democracy Freedoms. I don't want to ruin it here. Yeah, it's the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, the FTD, where Mike Montgomery is a director there. And they were kind of talking about it. And Jen, obviously, she's wrapping up her role. Director Easterly will be leaving her role on January 20th. and Kristi Noem has yet to nominate someone new for CISA. And obviously, I spoke about this a little bit a few days ago on the show. The future of CISA remains kind of hanging in the air in terms of the role of the agency. The agency has been a bit politicized by both Director Easterly and then former Director Krebs. And so it'll be, the Trump administration obviously has some weight there. There's obviously a lot of push from industry, including letters that have been sent to Secretary of Homeland Security designated South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem on the issue. But that's not it. Jen Easterly, for her end, talks about industry kind of pushing back. So Congress kind of passed a law, right? The Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act, also known as CIRCEA or CIRCEA, I don't know, whatever they want to call it. And then you've got the SEC Cyber Reporting Regiment that dimwit Gary Gensler, who will also be departing real soon at the SEC, will have to deal with. And you're starting to see companies go like, all of this reporting on incidents, nothing around cyber. And so she's getting a lot of pushback around how to notify shareholders and the confusion that this is creating for the private industry in terms of, do I need to do the SEC and you? And do I need to do both? And why do I have to do both? And then I've got to notify every attorney general. Oh, and then I've got to notify customers, and I've got to notify partners and shareholders. And it's just so much notification and not a lot of management. And that's one of the problems. Patrick Gall, the director of the NTSC, the National Technology Security Coalition, which is really a lobbying group on behalf of CISOs in Capitol Hill, set his research based on his group, which is an amazing group of CISOs, says 60 to 65% of all breach costs are legal in reporting. So, and that number keeps going up. It's 4 or 5 million, and 60% of that goes to ambulance chasers, to these lawyers, and that shouldn't be the case. We should simplify this. There is a federal data breach notification bill that's passed both, that has bipartisan support, that's ready to go to the floor. Speaker of the House Johnson and Senate Majority Leader need to bring this bill and get it over the finish line and streamline this process for practitioners. That's going to be a big one. All right, so now let's get into some really tactical stuff in cyber as we kind of get away from governance. So CISA is now urging federal agencies to patch a second Beyondtrust vulnerability. This is CVE 2024-12686, otherwise known as BT 2411. It's been added to the catalog. So Silk Typhoon obviously used Beyondtrust in order to breach Treasury. This is another one. Beyondtrust vulnerability that CISA has added to the KEF catalog and ordering everyone to take care of. SAP for their end, obviously this was the week of Patch Tuesday. We couldn't get to all the patches on Wednesday's show. This one stuck out for me. It's two critical vulnerabilities that affect NetWeaver web application server. Very, very popular. CVE 2025-0070 and 0066. Both have a CVSS score of 9.9. One's an improper authentication, and SAP NetWeaver application server for ABAP and ABAP platforms would allow an authenticated attacker to exploit improper authentication checks that result in privilege escalation and significantly impacting the CIA triad. And 0066, also a 9.9 is an information disclosure vulnerability in SAP NetWeaver AS for ABAP and the ABAP platform, and it occurs due to weak controlling access there. So all of those kind of play a role there in SAP. You want to make sure to get that patched up ASAP. A newly discovered botnet of 13,000 MikroTik devices uses a misconfiguration in DNS records to bypass email protections and deliver malware by spoofing roughly 20,000 web domains. And this goes to the heart of the matter. Cybersecurity is 90% doing the basics. Good DNS security, good email security, good firewall configuration, just doing the basics, securing the business processes, securing critical business functions, creating a defense in-depth strategy around it, rolling that all the way down. And then once you're in and you identify the types of risks based on the applications your business uses or based on the processes or the development life cycle, whatever the case may be, you start to look at those creative tools that come into play to help you build more resiliency within your cybersecurity program. Here, look, this is a simple DNS record misconfiguration in SPF. Again, this stuff, a lot of it is really, really, really simple. Again, a big botnet, taken down. MikroTik powering yet another botnet. Kind of talks to you a little bit about the device security aspect there as well. So something to keep in mind, pay close attention to this as well. Basic blocking and tackling. In a brazen new tactic, multiple threat actors are impersonating Google Ads login pages, tricking advertisers into handing over their account credentials. The attackers then, from regions as geographically dispersed as South America, Asia, and Eastern Europe, are then using the hijacked accounts in real time to buy and distribute malicious ads and malware via Google Ads as another attack method. By the way, I was getting ready for the show today. I looked at this and I go, that's a really interesting and brazen new way. Why are they doing this malvertising campaign? And years ago, I had a company reach out to me, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, that was kind of building a security product around this. And they kind of we were considering potentially me joining them and you know, like what they were trying to do and what I found to be kind of, you know, we just didn't align. Great company. They're still in business. I speak to them probably, you know, every 3 to 4 months or and whatnot. However, when you do that, initial access brokers in the decentralized cyber crime gang make a ton of money. So initial access is still the primary goal. Identities, the new perimeter, is 100% true. That's why you're seeing so many IM companies coming out there, identity access management. So many of them. So many. Why? Because it's primary. And this is what they're doing here. They're posting fake ads. They're taking over Google ad accounts. They're using your money to lure people in to get easy access. And then they're using that to launch attacks. So keep that in mind. You got to secure every single part of your business process. You've got to build resiliency across every single one of them. And a lot of times we don't pay attention to this stuff. So when our company does marketing campaigns, rarely is security involved in maybe auditing the, you know, access to ads.google.com or with working with the agencies or, you know, kind of tracking that type of stuff. But if your company spends millions and millions and millions of dollars on ads, which a lot of big companies do, it's something worthwhile looking at and ensuring optimization and security. Cybersecurity risk, including ransomware, data breaches, and IT disruption, is remaining a top business concern, according to an Allianz risk barometer that was released yesterday. Cyber incidents topped the list, but the one thing that stuck out for me here was kind of them associating business risk with CrowdStrike. Not the same thing. And I think this is where that bridge that I talked about very early in the show exists, right? The CrowdStrike failure was a software issue by a cybersecurity company. It wasn't a security incident. And those types of issues can happen across any type of company that would be a major component as part of your infrastructure. So if AWS had an outage, you would have the same thing. So would you say that's a security incident? That's likely a business continuity incident. It's a cloud incident potentially, but that's the case here, that business leaders in this Allianz kind of survey looked at CrowdStrike as being a security issue, a disruption, an IT security issue, rather than looking at that as being a major concern. And then they kind of convolvulated it all into data breaches and ransomware attacks and all of that. And they're not the same. This is the bridge we need to fix. This is the bridge we need to kind of explain that those two things are not the same. They're not even in the same ballpark. There's a whole slew of different risks that exist there as well. And finally, as Biden gave his farewell address yesterday, he's still signing executive orders for, I don't know why, but this one's all over the internet. So I guess he's provisions in his new executive order call for the development of minimum cybersecurity standards for government technology contractors that requires the contractors to submit evidence that they're complying with the rules. That's called CMMC. And he, you know, it's there. It already exists. So just more executive orders by a president on his way out the door. Never seen anything like it before. But nonetheless, if you see that anywhere, that's what that is. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow. Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow, Andy Ellis and I, the now partner over at YL Ventures, the CISO Hall of Famer. Andy Ellis and I had a conversation earlier this week or last week. Around kind of his move from CISO to venture to so much more. That episode will air at 11 a.m. tomorrow, so don't miss it. Until then, have a great rest of your day, y'all. And most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.